Oh, attackers, go on. Joe and Andrade. What a goal.
And again, Gabby Fernando on the 6-yard line. 99th minute. 9 minutes of injury time, and Gabby has won it for Stretford Paddock.
Shot on goal. Oh! Wow!
And that is that. Stretford Paddock, first piece of silverware. Tony Downs Memorial Trophy.
Hello and welcome to episode 12 of the Stretford Paddock Fans Podcast. My name is Chris and I'm joined as always this week by Stu.
Good evening, everybody.
And this week, for the first time, we're joined by the voice of Stretford Paddock match days. It's Liam.
Hello.
Thanks for joining, guys. And in this episode, we're going to look back on two games. So games against Billinge away and Congleton at home. But first, we're going to get to know Liam a little bit as it's his first time on the pod. So, Liam, how on earth did you end up going from Paddock fan to Paddock matchday commentator?
So, I'd always wanted to be a football commentator. I never thought it was a thing, like, how did you get in? There's a lot of Wallies on telly, but it was just like, the route of getting in always seemed like such a difficult path. But I'd managed to get into doing, like, esports, like video game, shooter, sort of tournament-style things on Twitch. And then it got to, like, around October 2023, and one of Steve's sort of post-United match roundups and chats with the fans, he mentioned, oh, we're looking for a commentator to do some highlights for the Paddock on their YouTube channel. So I got in touch and he's like, oh, drop an email over to Deji, we'll go from there. Dropped an email, heard nothing, and so Steve was like, right, jump in the DMs, I'll set you like a bit of homework as a test task and we'll go from there. Fast forward to March 2024 and nothing had happened, and then I saw they put an ad out on LinkedIn asking for one, so I got in touch, and this time it was to Lewis, who handles the Veo cam and stuff for some photos and whatnot on the match days, and he was like, yeah, that name rings a bell. How much you been with Steve? So we had a chat and over email and a call afterwards and stuff. And it was basically, so we should have just got you in sooner, but never mind. You're the best of the bunch who's applied anyway. We'll crack on from here. So it just started as the highlights for the tail end of that 23-24 season, and then into the live match days ever since.
So on a match day, Liam, what does your job actually entail apart from the actual commentary? Because it seems like you're in charge of different cameras, graphics that pop up, trying to understand what's going on. So is it a case of spinning many plates at the same time? And if so, what are all those plates?
Yeah, so I mean, it's only 2 plates on this, and having done the gaming stuff before, that was 3. So the sort of multitasking element, I'm not too struggling with, but it is ideally a 2-person job. But effectively, I run the broadcast through some software called OBS. And that's what they use on the Paddock channel. They use for the Steve's channel stuff. It's a very common piece of kit to broadcast out to Twitch, YouTube, wherever. And so in OBS, I've got a load of graphics overlaid or videos put in, audio channels set up for catching me, catching Discord if we ever had call-ins, because it's an idea we put in there. And so that's all basically built in as like a just press the button and go. In terms of the bits I have to update, obviously I have generic graphics pack from Lewis and Saul, where I have to update things per week. So we change, obviously, the day of the week, the date, what venue we're at, who we're playing, team lineups. So it's about half an hour's work or so each week to prep graphics for the next game. And then it's a case of, just import that all into the software and we go live. And whichever one of them is pitched live with the camera, they'll send me a link once that's live, and we just add that to Google and just open it up and stream.
Sounds quite professional, especially compared to this podcast.
Yeah, it's a good little setup. Obviously, the Veo cams are quite handy. I say SIM card in that, and that allows us to transmit.
So what's your biggest challenge you face on a match day, Liam? What's the bit of your job which makes you tear your hair out?
For the most part, it's really good fun. Like I really do enjoy it, and I'm glad to be part of the project that Paddock are doing and climbing the ranks of the leagues and stuff and building the fan base. Really believe in the project as a ownership. So in terms of the support, though, like getting updates from the sidelines, because there's always promises. It's like, yeah, we'll update you on subs, and half the time I'll get a message off Stu or of Steve Harris saying this person's been subbed on, because especially as it gets later in the year and it's dark, floodlights, the camera can't see quite on the other side of the field, and it's just like you're just guessing And we had it with the last game in terms of me thinking it was Noah had scored and it was Kiefer. And Kiefer's even dropped in my DMs like, "How'd you get me confused?" I'm like, "I'm looking at the opposite side of the pitch, mate. Like it's so difficult from the zoom out of the Veo cam. Like, just be glad I can see people running about."
I think that's one thing that people don't realize. You don't have any control over the camera at all. So you literally see the same images that we do. So when the camera points to a guy down injured on the left side of the field and a sub is made on the right side of the field, you don't see that. We don't see that.
I've said before, it'd be lovely to have like an Xbox controller or something, to be able to like push the buttons and zoom in on different bits of the field and anything like that. But no, unfortunately, the technology involved in the Veo cam is AI, so it just tracks the ball or occasionally a referee's bald head, follows it around the pitch. So it's good for the level we're at.
Stu, I'm going to bring you in here. What you mentioned earlier that there may be a role for you. Was it assistant VO camera or something? What would that entail? And is that going to help Liam in any shape or form with his commentary on match days?
No support or help at all whatsoever for Liam on that one, unfortunately. As we know, Lewis is not able to make it for a couple of games for whatever reason. So I was approached by Claire just to maybe stand in as that temporary VO operative. But Saul was at the match last night doing a fantastic job of setting up the VO cameras in Lewis's absence. So I don't think I'm needed, and even if I was, it would have helped Liam in his challenges anyway.
What on earth is an assistant VO operative anyway? That's like a LinkedIn title for hold the camera still. Was there more to
It
it?
would have gone on the CV, that's for sure.
All right. Well, while we've got you, Stu, let's look back on our last two games, which I'm sure we'll all be absolutely delighted to talk about because that's two more wins to start or to add to the previous two wins to start the season. So that's 4 wins from 4. Paddock are joint top of the league. And this latest addition to the points tally began with a tricky, windy Saturday afternoon against Billinge over in St Helens. Stu, you were there. What were your thoughts on the game?
Well, like you said a minute ago, it was windy, wasn't it? I mean, no one ever wants to make excuses about the weather, but even on Twitch, I think there were some comments about how it was thundering through the microphone, and it was really making it a difficult game for both sets of players. I spoke to lads at the end of the game, and I said, how did that impact you on there? Because there was no headwinds or anything like that. It wasn't like it was hitting one end of the pitch to the other. And one team had advantage over the other in either half. It was like going sideways across the pitch, and the lads were saying that anything off the deck was whistling all over the place. It was moving all over the place and making it really difficult to play any sort of passes off the deck. So yeah, the wind didn't help on the day, and I got some intelligence at the end of the match that our players heard the Billinge team saying they'd be happy with a 0-0 before they walked out onto the pitch. So they set up like that as well, didn't they? We saw from all angles on the Twitch and on pitch side how Billinge set up after about 5 minutes with 5 at the back, and it's really difficult to break down. I said to somebody pitch side, I don't think I've ever seen a team defend a set piece in the first half of a match with everybody back defending and not one striker at the top, ready to counter or help the team relieve some pressure. So that just kind of like puts into context where Billinge were at in their approach to the game. Of course, if you watched the game or didn't, you might have heard that we took about 4 million shots to get a goal. And that first opening goal came from the most unlikeliest of sources. The shot shy Ronaldo Brown got his head onto a ball to open the scoring for us and finally get us that opening goal. I think it was in the second half, wasn't it? And that just kind of like eased the pressure on the lads just to relax a bit more into the game.
He had a really good game actually, Stu, Ronaldo. I thought it was probably his best game he's played for us since his return.
Ronnie really is, just after a few games, starting to look match fit, sharp, hungry and eager to take on anything and everything that he can. Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic on Saturday. Sam Walker again, solid in everything. The tackle, the air, and people are getting sick and tired of me saying this by the sounds of things. I seem to say it every single podcast about Sam Walker of late. Um, but I tell you what, for me, there was two things that made the difference on the day. KO'd coming off the bench for a start. Gave us a lot more energy, I thought. A lot more structure in the way that we moved through the phases. He was absolutely brilliant when he came on. And I wouldn't say that I don't know if it's harsh to say to that harsh on the lads to say that we've missed him in the team, but he certainly makes an impact when he's in the team. And everyone's levels just seemed to rise a little bit higher on Saturday when he came on the pitch. And the other one that made the difference was the youth. I think it's fair to say again, I think we ended up with about 4 or 5 youth players on the pitch by the end of the match, and players like Kiefer and Dylan that I've mentioned the synergy before, Noah, etc., all getting touches on the ball, and of course Kiefer got a goal, having been turning the fullback inside and out for about 10 minutes. They must have been having a nightmare on Saturday with him, and he was absolutely fantastic. Kiefer was. Last one, just to shout out, was Cam Waters. With the engine that he's got, he's gonna be a fan's favourite this season, I reckon, and everything he does is integral to how we play. I mean, he's forever raising levels, and again, I'm not going to take anything from Liam about what he might come out with about last night's match against Congleton, but Cam was amazing as well.
I've got another point I wanted to add in there, but while it's in my mind, because I've got the memory of a goldfish, but yeah, last week on the podcast, Kiefer gave himself a bit of a shout out for doing really well when he came on. And apparently he got absolutely panned in the players group chat for doing that. So what I will say is this week he's getting a shout out and he hasn't prompted it at all. And I thought he was excellent when he came on, and yeah, he was a real threat. Just the direct nature of his play. Obviously, the goal was fantastic when we finally realised it had gone in, because it seemed to hit some kind of stanchion in the background and pop back out. But yeah, goal was very well deserved. And I think he may have assisted Cam's goal, the fourth one as well. Yeah, so shout out to Kiefer, completely unprompted. No bribes were received in the making of this shout out. And one that I'm sure you agree with, Stu, but I'm sure you just missed. But Michael Olatunji on Saturday against Billinge was brilliant, and he'll probably be the first to admit that he's not had the most robust or confident start to the season. Most of the plaudits defensively have gone Sam's direction, but I thought Michael, who took the armband on the day as well in Joa's absence, was brilliant, back to his best, athletic, and read the game well, won everything in the air. Admittedly, Billinge didn't offer that much of a threat going forward, but Michael with Sam alongside him were more than a match for what they had to face that day.
Completely agree. Yeah, Michael Olatunji, we all said it on the sideline as well. Seemed to come into the match with our captain's armband on, and had a point to prove to himself, let alone everybody else. And again, seems to be on the up in relation to his own personal performances, let alone how the team performed last night as well, Liam, when you get to that.
Liam, you were in the hypothetical gantry watching the Billinge performance. So we did run out 4-0 winners in the end to pick up another 3 points. But is there anything you wanted to add to what Stu's shared already?
Yeah, just the mentality has been good from us last season and getting promoted, and again this season as we started life in Cheshire League One. And Sam Walker and Cam Waters both picked up yellow cards due to little bits of argy-bargy with Billinge, and it's part of the nature of the way they play. They like to be not necessarily aggressive, but they get stuck in. And both of them in the past, as well as others in the team, have lost heads. They get a booking, they get wound up, and it turns into a bit of a battle between personalities. They both kept their cool, they both stayed focused, and they both got a goal each, and that just shows what sort of attitudes are coming through at the club, what Steve's trying to build as a project for the players. And it's good to see that we can ride out the storm of whether it's opposition's fouling us, taunting us, whatever, and keep focused on the matter at hand. And yeah, we put goals past Billinge, we got the win. Jobs are good.
Speaking of Cam, there was that moment that we spotted on the Twitch feed. Well, I don't know if Stu, you saw it on the touchline, but The ball went out of play, and Cam tried to tie up his shoelaces. And one of the Billinge players, you could see the light bulb in his head. He was like, I'm going to push Cam over while he's on one knee and like got his hands tying his laces. And it would have been absolutely hilarious. Like, I think it would have been hilarious if Cam ended up on his back like a turtle. But unfortunately, the Billinge player just took too long to do it. So he just ended up waiting until Cam had basically got to his feet and just shoved him and he didn't move. So it was completely pointless. But it would have been, a real like outtakes, end of the season, funny moment. But yeah, his actions didn't work as fast as his brain and the moment was gone.
I just want to come back to Liam's point that he meant about the mentality before we move on. I think that's a really important point Liam made because not once did I see our team get frustrated, lose their heads, not know what they're doing. They kept banging on the door, and although, like I say, it took a lot of shots until we got that first goal and efforts on target, and off target as well, by the way. They just carried on maintaining that pace, knowing that at some point this is going to come. And I thought that's obviously important as a team unit, as anything. So I think that's a really good point that Liam raises there.
One last shout out because I think I watched the game back on the VO after I'd watched it live and I spotted something which I'd forgotten. But at 0-0 with about 10 minutes gone, Florin made an unbelievable save when their guy ran through one-on-one, low to his right. Yeah, we ended up going in at half-time 0-0 and then Ronnie scored basically the first minute of the second half. The floodgates opened. But, without that stop at 0-0, who knows what would have happened. And I'm fairly sure Billinge's approach to the game wouldn't have changed that much. But when you've got a goal up, then you've got something to hold on to and it can galvanise you a little bit. But the lads picked up 3 points and yeah, we maintained our 100% start to the season, which we would have expected, I guess, against the team that were currently bottom. But as we know, it is the Cheshire League and no results are given on any match day. So the lads should be very happy with that. They should also be very happy with last night's game where we hosted Congleton reserves. The lads battled well and ran out with another 3 points with a tricky home midweek game. What were your takeaways from our fourth game of the season?
I was really impressed with it. I thought it was another professional performance from the boys. I thought we still look just a little bit slow at the start of games, but we're getting quicker at it. And we're definitely improving as we've gone on. Congleton aren't an easy team. Obviously, there's in Cheshire League One, there's not really any easy games. They've had a 1-0 defeat to Dayton. They drew 0-0 with Sandbach, and they came to us. They're in fair form. They obviously haven't picked any points, but still a decent opposition, a decent test. And we did our job. You can see the patterns of play we're doing in terms of the way we're trying to use Cam as a sort of floating wing back. Luke Morris is a traditional wing back. You've got Sam Walker drifting more towards right centre back and right back position. People floating around. Joe and Zach were taking it in turns to drop deep as part of that central defensive lineup just to help build the play at the back. So you can see the triangles we're trying to make in terms of bringing Noah in from that sort of wide left forward, Dylan in the half space as the 10, just bopping around, and there were some really good give and go bits of play. The few bits that let us down and that sort of got rid of us building up the pressure were just a few little moments of trying to hurry something more than it should have been. Like Sam Walker has had that a few times in the past few games, but again gets those out of his system fairly early in the first half. We saw it from Luke Morris, saw it from Michael Olatunji. We even saw a couple from Cam. So it still takes people a minute to warm up, but as we got further into the game, even though there were some contentious refereeing decisions and some frustration from fan side and from the bench, the players, they warmed up nicely, they built into the game, they worked hard, they were grafting. You see Sam Pratt running around like the madman he is, just putting a big shift in from all over the pitch, and ultimately that pressure told. We got our first goal late in the first half through Sam Pratt, and again, great bit of play from Dylan to set him up. Two defenders clashing into each other is just perfect, and then Sam fizzes one in, past the keeper, low, tight angle. You love it. And we go into half-time with goal up. Exactly what we'd needed really against Billinge, and we didn't get. So, again, a step up. And I'd say Congleton a harder opposition than Billinge. And then, second half, more of the same. We kept the pressure up. We were much more convincing in our passing, much quicker in the sort of give and goes. There were some great bits from Zach and Joe particularly, obviously, we've been a bit quiet about them so far this season. They've been okay. Zach's had a few mare moments in the first couple of games, but again, the way they draw people in, thinking they're an easy target, and then use their intelligence and use their experience to drop a shoulder or to spin it around or to play it on to someone else quickly. Suddenly they open up a lot of space, and they were doing a really good job of getting time on the ball for Dylan and Cam in particular. And those two just driving Congleton reserves was hilarious because they were just backpedaling and didn't know where they wanted to be. And then that was opening up space for Ronaldo. And again, we've talked about Ronaldo. He seems like his fitness is clicked now as well. He was doing what Giroud's been doing, not only the close footwork and wanting to dance around people, but also that I'm going to knock you past you and just run around you and just push into the box, make something happen. You either foul me or you let me cross. And yeah, I thought we were a much better balance of close range technical and direct football, and fully deserved that win.
Yeah, absolutely agree with what he says. We fully deserved the 3 points. Great time to get that first goal just before half time, having knocked on the door for the whole of the first half. I think it's our best team performance of the season so far, which is important going into the run of fixtures we've got coming up. That's now 4 wins in 4, top of the league, although it doesn't mean much at this stage of the season, as we all know. We're not going to start getting giddy. But I thought Michael Olatunji might have got man of the match at about the 60th minute. And then you have levels to this, don't you? And people like Cam Waters just seem to take that next gear, take that next step, drive the team forward at times where you really need it. And he came off the pitch with 2 goals. And again, the energy that he just has, the intensity, we use that word all the time to describe Cam Waters. He's making 80-yard dashes back from the opponent's third to defend balls that have been flung back into his half. And this is at 85 minutes. Like, he's playing in the first minute. Similar to Luke Morris on the other side. Sam Pratt's constantly at it as well. But Cam Waters last night was absolutely incredible. And if it wasn't for those 2 goals, Michael Olatunji might have seen himself being man of the match. But yeah, some great performances there last night.
Liam, you mentioned in your kind of summary of this game that Congleton were one of our hardest opponents so far. They were probably the most physical team we've faced so far. I think personally that Paddock are better suited now to come up against those physical challenges. We've seen perhaps in our days in Division 2 that we come unstuck against the Haydocks, the Newton, the Willows, the overly physical sides. I think we stood up to a really robust Congleton team last night and ended up coming out on top in the physical side and the football side. Is that something that you've noticed as well over the start of this season?
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's a combination effect, really. We have some good, warrior types in the team, people who will fight for the badge, fight for the players around them. Cam, Sam Walker, Michael, great examples of that. Zach, they're not afraid to put the bodies on the line. And then you'd think actually, maybe it's a detriment because we've got the kids in the team. We've got so many 16, 17, 18-year-olds come through the ranks. When you look at the size of people like Noah, like Dylan, Jack Heslop featured the last couple of games from the under-21s, making his debut against Billinge. And, they're not the biggest of lads. They have still got a bit of growing and development to do. But they have no fear. They trust that the players around them are offering them the solidarity and the confidence to play their game. They've got the reassurance and the backing from the manager and from the club staff. And they trust in their abilities. And so, Dylan's a great example. The way he drops his shoulder and just spins around people, he just weaves through the lines. And occasionally someone will catch him with a heavy tackle. He wins the foul. Well done. But he just goes with the flow. He doesn't take it personally. He rides through it. And I think, it just shows, again, what we're doing, what we're building as a team, because I think in previous years, having a player of that ilk, we might have been a little bit less in the quality or might have been a little bit less in the mentality. And, they would have taken that knock, the literally physical knock, to heart and would have, changed their performance. They would have had less less of an impact. Whereas at the moment, we're looking strong.
Yeah, we're quite fortunate at the moment because we've got lots of players missing. But the fact that we've got the likes of Noah, Dylan, Kiefer, Leland came on, Junior came on, they're there to really fill in those gaps that the first team have left behind when there's unavailabilities. And they've not just stepped in and filled in, they've actually excelled on a number of occasions. Stu, I think that's definitely something you would have spotted being pitch side for both games.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks for naming these lads. Last night we ended up with 6 or 7 16-year-olds on the pitch. They getting significant minutes as well, not like they're making just like bit parts. Again, be nice if we got a couple more goals to the good, with half an hour to go, and the likes of Kiefer Jr., etc., can come on with a bit and get a few more minutes. But that relationship they've got on the pitch is just absolutely insane. Kiefer last night, man, oh my God, there was times where he was on the ball, snapping that fullback's ankles, turning him inside out on the sideline. There's noises that I haven't heard since Kieran Malloy was here doing the similar thing. And Kiefer is doing it in the last 10, 15 minutes of the match. Got these fullbacks on toes, taking on 2, 3 players, drawing in these players, giving other people the room to, make assists. And Cam Waters, that goal at the end of the match, for example, was a good example of that happening. But the youth are absolutely incredible. Man, they're 16. I couldn't read the game like they read it like this, and I've probably never been able to read the game like they can read it. And they're living it on the pitch. And Liam was saying a minute ago about how there's players on the pitch who don't mind putting their body on the line. Dylan and Kiefer have no business to be able to do the same thing, but they do because we've got senior players leading by example. You've got your Sam Pratts, your Cams, your Zacks, your Joe Colemans, your Luke Morris, your Michael Olatunjes, who are always finding that extra level as you move through the game, and therefore the youth follow that example during the match, and it's lovely. It was brilliant to see last night.
So one thing that I think is noteworthy is, although I think Paddock, they had a good half an hour against Winstanley, and then frankly we were rubbish second half, and we made them look incredible. We were average, I think, against Wythenshawe. I think on another day we could have dropped points in that game, and I think on another day we could have hit 10, but we kind of were quite average. I thought we played really well against Billinge. I don't think the opposition were great that day, but we stuck to our task and we did what we needed to do to break them down, and the result was kind of in the bag really with an hour gone. But I thought last night was our best performance of the season. It's really nice to see, after a shaky pre-season, let's say, I know we played some very good sides, but the performances also weren't fantastic, that the club have, over the 4 games so far, actually grown into the season and started to look like a better overall team with a number of players missing. I mean, you're still missing Damani. Joao was missing last night. Danny Hugo, Mike Taylor, Kaode was unavailable last night. We've got Coogan and Smith both injured. I'm sure I've missed somebody, but that's, how many was that? 7, 8 names of people that could have played in the starting 11 last night and were unavailable for whatever reason that may be. So that leads us on to our next game, which is Upton, who admittedly have yet to win a game, but they've also had 3 very difficult fixtures, and they nearly picked up 3 points in a number of those. My first question is for Liam. Do you bring Joao straight back into the lineup, or do you stick with the 11 we have? Bearing in mind, Joao was very good for the first 2 games of the season. He had to go away for work. He's our club's first ever Centurion, bit of a club legend, if you like. You can always rely on Joao, but does he get straight back into the team?
I think so, yeah. I think with him being, captain quite regularly, I think that seniority does warrant a starting place. As for then who you take out, it's a tricky one because, again, everyone's in there on merit. Everyone's been playing well. So it depends on availability because, obviously, this changes from game to game. We don't know who's going to be ready against Upton for that match. But for me, yeah, I'd get him back in. If that means dropping Noah, then so be it. Keep that fresh on the bench. Noah's played well. Definitely deserves a spot in the squad. But again, we judge it on the day.
Stu, you're going to probably give us some stats on Upton, but also I want you to answer the same question, so it's not just Liam on the spot tonight. Would you bring Joao back in?
Yeah, I answered that question last night on the sideline, and I think he does get back in. Um, I don't think the seniority come into it. I mean, he's club captain now, so that takes that's somewhat of a factor, isn't it? But I don't think it's to the detriment of anybody's poor performances whatsoever. It's just the fact that we have a very tricky opponent to navigate, and we're lucky to have such a good range of options available to us, including our highest appearance maker and highest top scorer as well, I think, in our history. So I think he does get back into the team for against Upton, definitely. Definitely, yeah. I've got some numbers for you. So like you said, Upton have got 1 point from the 3 games they've got, but they had to navigate tricky games. We know from history, having played Upton, they're a very good side. They are organised. They come with excellent attacking ability, and they're not afraid to take the game to people. Get stuck in the middle. They finished 12th last season. It's not the strongest end to the season, but we know that they actually had a really strong first half of the season, didn't they? Just fell off, I think, maybe just before Christmas.
Yeah,
I
something
think it
must have
was.
gone on there, Stu, because I remember talking about this with you last year. They were really up there around late November, early December, and then they dropped like a stone, like to finish 12th. They went from promotion form to relegation form like overnight. So I'm not sure if something happened there, like players left or whatever, but it looks like they've put things right for the start of this season.
They have, and we know they've just had a recent manager change, haven't they? So they're probably still getting used to that, adapting to those expectations as a team. But I think we all go back to, I think all teams are now wise to the fact that no one game is a given anymore in any of these leagues. I mean, we're not talking about the Premier League here, are we? We're talking about the Cheshire Division One, Division Two, etc. Yet you can't take your foot off the gas against any one team in the league, because regardless of their form, they're, they've got any of them have got the ability to turn up and bang 2 or 3 in against you, especially if you're prone to any sort of mistakes at the back or whatever and giving the ball away. So we certainly still need to be switched on. We need to build on these performances like last night, because obviously after Upton, we've also got St Helens and Claybrow coming up as well. So keep moving forward and put my neck on the line. I think we'll get the win, but it's going to have to be a really hard fought win and a decent performance.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think in this league, as we've seen time and time again, like we've seen Paddock play and lose against, Moore United last year, who were arguably the worst team in the league at the time we played them. We saw Mersey Valley, who were in a title race, lose to Warrington Rylands, who were, in the bottom 2. Like anybody can beat anybody. And you could argue that Paddock have had 4 fixtures to start the season, which are, slightly easier than perhaps not against the favourites for the league. But the fact is, Paddock have played 4 and won 4. So they've done exactly what was required. And it would be completely normal for Paddock to drop points in one of those games or 2 of those games, because you've seen it happen in the Cheshire League for years and years and years, and no result is a given. So that's definitely going to be the case on Saturday. I think one thing you can take away from Upton is their games aren't over till they're over. So they played last night and they equalised in the 90th minute against St Helens to draw 3-3. As we know, St Helens are a formidable side, so that's a great result for them. They also went 2-0 up against Winsford, and then with 20 minutes to go, managed to concede 3 goals and lose 3-2. So they've picked a point up from losing position, and they've managed to lose all 3 from a winning position in the last 20 minutes. So we can't have a Win Stanley performance where we just stop playing for the final half an hour. Liam, do you think Upton will be our biggest, toughest opponent of the season so far?
Yeah, I think for all they have, say they've had a rough start to the season, And it gives me hope the Winsford defeat does, because I think that's how we'll beat them with our youth late on. Having that intent, keep going the full 90. I think we can take them at the end in terms of the wind in our sails. But yeah, they are a strong, well organised team. I think we have a challenge, but again, confidence is low for them. It's high for us. The only risk I feel big time is Daniel Evans, the striker. He got a hat trick against St Helens, got 4 and 3. It's good form. Can pose a risk. And given we've got a fairly new pairing of centre back of Sam and Michael, hopefully that form sticks with and they can hold him off.
All right then, guys. Well, I'm going to ask you both for your moment of the season so far. So we played 4 games. You can include pre-season if you actually managed to catch any of those. But maybe I'll go to you first, Stu. What was your favourite moment of the first 4 games?
The first thing that comes to mind is that I'm really enjoying the evolution of Sam Walker. He's doing so well this season. I know that he came in 2 pre-seasons ago to the club, had these lofty ambitions to be in the first team straight away, didn't quite match our defensive style, so had to ply his trade in the amateurs all last season. Seems to have taken on board what the coaches have said, what Steve has said, and cemented his place into the side for now. And I'm loving that he's on cloud 9 and he's doing amazing next to Michael Tunji. So that's probably my highlight of the year so far.
Liam, highlight of the year so far?
There was a moment in the Congleton game where there's a super high ball comes out the air and Michael Olatunji on stride takes it like Berbatov. And it was so good. And I reacted at the time. I was like, that's beautiful. Even Joao popped up in chat and went, where's Big Mike pulled that from? And I was like, so just that little moment, I was like, it's nice. You know what? Nice. We appreciate that. So you can see it's not just all about, the big, strong Mike at centre back, captain in the team. There's some technique in there as well. So, yeah.
I'm glad you said that. I forgot about that, but I did watch the game and I remember that touch and I remember Joao popping up and, being, where the hell did that come from? But no, that was fantastic. It was not an easy ball to control. He just stopped it dead on his laces.
Crisp.
There was about 40 people or so, 50 people in the stands, and everybody was like, where did that come from? And we was absolutely bursting with, I don't know what it was called, but that touch just sent everybody insane in the stand. It was an incredible moment.
I think for me, I normally go for something cheeky here, but I think I'm just going to go with Cam's free kick last night. I think it's probably just a nice line underneath what's been a really impressive 4 games from us so far, like 100% record. We know it's not going to last forever and it's a tough league. So, we're delighted with every win we get because, you can't take any points for granted in this league. But that was kind of like job done, got the 3 points. We move on to Upton and, we couldn't have asked for a better start from the lads in terms of results. So, yeah, it's also a great free kick to spot the gap in the wall and just to fly it in. Celebrations were really good. I think that was a well done, lads. We've negotiated because that's our final midweek game of the year as well, of the start of the year. So, yeah, we've navigated a tricky period kind of flawlessly. Right, guys, we'll do a quick kind of summary of the Cheshire League, what else has been going on in and around the league. But it looks like Claybrow are the team to beat so far. Also picked up a 100% record. They've beaten Dayton last night by 5 goals to 3. I think on the last pod, Stu, your eagle eyes had noticed that Alex Bacon was no longer playing for Billinge, and then about an hour after the pod finished, we saw he scored 2 goals for them. So we know where he's ended up, and he's definitely going to be an asset for them. And it seems like Edgerton have also finally played themselves into form. They've got a big game against St Helens coming up. We also see Knutsford, who had a very slow and inconspicuous start to the season, but they've now picked up wins in their last 3 games. So they had a good finish last season. We expect them to push on up the league now and challenge for those spots.
Alex Bacon has been a great signing by Claybrow and 6 goals in 4 appearances. Sandbach have got Jack Gorst ahead, 7 in 3, but again, they did have an absolute stomping on Billinge. So, maybe a bit of that's inflated, but I think, you can see up there, Diggle for St Helens, you've got a couple for Egerton and Alex Bacon for Claybrow. They're going to make a difference. And obviously, we are missing Damani And I think the sooner we get him back, the sooner we get Damani up on that list as well. Because I think, the better teams, the teams going to challenge for promotion, are going to need a team effort for goals, but particularly a standout lead striker. And I think, we're missing that at the moment, but 4 wins from 4 without, it's not bad going.
There's some fantastic quality in this league, isn't there? It's I know it sounds obvious, but we have clearly jumped up to Division One, and there's going to be some serious matches being had when you've got the likes of Brown, Paddock, St Helens, Winsford, Dayton, etc., all starting to play each other in the coming 4 to 5 weeks, and the gaps might start to form. But I think the important thing is for Paddock is, regardless of when we start to drop points, if we start to drop points, I'm sure it will come. When that happens, we keep our momentum, we keep our chins up, we maintain the spirit, we let any sort of negativity wave over us, and we continue marching forward, ensuring that we don't lose too much of a gap between, in the first and second spots. But we can enjoy being top for now.
Absolutely. Enjoy it while it lasts, and hopefully it lasts until the final game of the season. But time will tell, and the next step on that journey is our next home game. So if you are in the Hyde area, come and watch us play Upton on Saturday, the 16th of August, kick-off at 3 o'clock. Otherwise, that might be it, guys. So let's wrap up, and we'll see you all pitch side on Saturday. So let's say goodbye from Liam.
See you later.
Goodbye from Stu.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Up the paddock.
And goodbye from me. Up the paddock.